Hi, welcome to Workflow Manager Training for Moksha. This is a quick update before you start learning how to build workflows. This is a section that has been added in this area because from 2014 to 2015 an important change was made to how workflow parameters are set up, and in some places in the movies that will follow you will get some explanations on how to add some special functionality or special parameters to the workflow, and this has been updated, but we did not want to update all the movies, so there's a little movie here up front that will explain to you what was changed and how you should use it in going forward in the future. What I am actually talking about is that in your previous movie I was explaining the setup of the workflow manager and .xml file, which is in your customizations folder. This now only contains these parameters, or maybe also one more called server, but even that is maybe not necessary. But these are the three parameters that are required. All the rest of the parameters that were there in the past are no longer necessary here. Let me explain why. When a workflow is used, there are now today 4 levels or 4 places where you can set these parameters. They already existed in the past. At least 3 levels of them existed in the past. The top level in the past was this level, which was the website. So inside the website you were able to set all the parameters, and this was quite a list of parameters. And then the workflow itself, or workflow template, which is a category, you were able to set that information in here. You were able to set those parameters in here. In this particular field here, the workflow parameters, you had the ability to set some additional parameters, and you had to add them manually. These parameters are loaded after the site parameters are loaded, the ones I just showed you in this document. So they are in the site's environment, and after the template workflows are loaded, after that the template workflows are loaded, then the final level was the workflow parameters field in here. So here too you were able and instructed to add some additional parameters that were specific for that task. If you add them here, they would only influence this particular task of the workflow. If you added them at the category level, it would influence the workflow portal, the template for that workflow, and all the different tasks for that particular workflow. The level above of sites was influencing everything. In this new version, you no longer need to set this up manually. You are now able to set this up in the interface. In the menu item, you have a new thing that is called Edit Workflow Parameters. Actually, in one of the training movies, you will see that there is an additional new field in the setup of the workflow manager, which is called also workflow manager parameters, which these parameters are the parameters that are the top level parameters of your installation for Workflow Manager. And this is the 4th level, or the newest level that was invented. In some versions you were able to set these parameters manually here, type them in, but we disabled that functionality because it was making it pretty complicated and prone for errors if you mistyped some of the stuff here. So what we changed is that you no longer need to set it up here. If you want to set up the top level parameters, you just go to edit parameters, and here you get nicely in a nice interface all those parameters where you can just go in and say, okay, this is for instance the IP address or whatever of this. You can set the password, etc, etc. And so you can also if it's pertaining parameters that you do not see here in the list, you can even add a row and select from the drop down for those parameters that are not in there. You can see it's empty, so all default parameters are in there. You can even add an empty one if you want, like I just did here, and just type in the value of the new parameter that is maybe described somewhere in the documentation. You can remove a row, you can save. In this case I'm just gonna close, I don't want any changes. So that is the place where you need to set up the global parameters for Workflow Manager. It's no longer required to do that here unless you want to make any changes to the global parameters. Then you can specify a different value for that specific parameter. The same goes for the workflow itself. If you open the workflow graph, in the workflow graphic you will have now a new button called Edit Param, and Edit Param only contains those parameters that are different from the global parameters. And here you already see a new type of parameter, or new parameter that will be discussed in another movie, where you allow a participant to be just an email address that you type in and doesn't have to exist in your list of users from that role. And just close this, and finally if I go into so as I said, this replaces whatever is here. So what you just saw as a parameter about that email is actually here, and this is that value, but now this value is put in automatically and you no longer have to type it in into this field. It's become much easier. And the final step, if you go into the workflow itself and select the task, and if you edit the task, you also have a new button here, edit task workflow parameters, and again exactly the same possibility to add any of the fields. You will notice that now our list is populated because none of the fields are yet in the list, and so it only shows those parameters that you can set that are not populated. So that's what I wanted to talk about before you start using the workflows. It's very important that if in the training movies you see any reference to typing in a value into this particular field, or typing in a value into this particular field, then you know that you no longer have to type this in here, but that you can do it via the menu items to get the table field where you can nicely type in the values and not having to care about the XML syntax of it. Okay, thank you for joining me in this training update movie, and let me know if you have any questions.